The rain came down in sheets that Tuesday night. The kind of cold October rain that soaks through your jacket before you even realize it started. Marcus Webb had been working a double shift at the diner, his feet aching, his back screaming, and exactly $43 in his pocket, the last of what he had until Friday's paycheck. He was almost home, almost to the small two-bedroom apartment where his 7-year-old son, Caleb, was sleeping under the care of their elderly neighbor, Mrs. Patterson. Almost done with one of the hardest days he'd had in months. And then he saw her. She was slumped against the chain-link fence at the edge of Ridgeway Park, half hidden by a trash can, her expensive coat soaked through, her face so pale it nearly blended into the concrete. For a split second, just one, Marcus thought about walking past. He had nothing. He was nobody. What could he possibly do? But something in him, some deep and stubborn piece of his humanity, refused to let his feet keep moving. He knelt down beside her and pressed 2 fingers to her neck. Her pulse was there, but it was weak and thready, like a candle flame in a strong wind. She was maybe 19, 20 years old, beautiful in the way that made you think she had never worried about rent or groceries. A thin gold bracelet on her wrist caught the glow of the streetlight, and Marcus didn't even notice it. He was too busy dialing 911. If you believe in kindness and second chances, hit that like button right now, drop a comment, and share this story with someone who needs to hear it today. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the Kindness channel. We're building a community of people who still believe in the good in this world. Tell us in the comments, where are you watching from? We want to know. The ambulance came in 4 minutes. Marcus rode with her because she had no ID on her, no phone, nothing. And he was the one who had found her and called it in. The paramedics worked fast, speaking in clipped medical language over her body, while Marcus sat pressed against the wall of the ambulance, wet and shivering, watching a stranger fight to stay alive. At the hospital, they told him she was severely hypoglycemic and hypothermic. Her blood sugar had crashed to dangerous levels. Another 30 minutes in that rain, the doctor said without looking up from his clipboard, and she likely wouldn't have made it. Marcus nodded. He called Mrs. Patterson to check on Caleb, apologized for being late, and then sat in the waiting room because something wouldn't let him leave. He didn't know why. He was exhausted and hungry and had an early shift the next morning. But he sat there in those stiff plastic chairs under those humming fluorescent lights, and he waited. Her name, he learned later, was Sophia. Sophia Renault. He didn't know the name, he didn't follow the business, news, or the gossip columns or the social pages that had featured Sophia at galas and yacht parties and charity fundraisers across 3 continents. He was a 34-year-old single father from the east side of Cincinnati who spent his free time helping Caleb with second-grade math and watching football highlights on a cracked phone screen. The name Renault meant nothing to him. What meant something to him was that she woke up. He was half asleep in the chair when he heard a nurse say she was conscious and asking questions. Relief moved through him like warm water, loosening every tight muscle in his chest. He stood up, grabbed his damp jacket from the back of the chair, and told the nurse at the desk that the young woman was awake, that someone should probably notify her family, and that he'd be heading out now. He was almost to the elevator when the nurse called after him. "Sir, she's asking for you. The man who found her." Marcus turned around slowly. He looked at the elevator. He looked back at the nurse. Then he walked back down the hall. Sophia Renault was sitting up in the hospital bed with an 4 in her arm and tears drying on her cheeks. She was even younger looking without the rain and the danger masking her face. Just a young woman who had come terrifyingly close to dying alone on a sidewalk. "You saved my life," she said. It wasn't dramatic. It was quiet and direct and completely sincere. Marcus shrugged the way men do when they don't know how to accept gratitude. "I just called for help." "You stayed," she said. "Nobody stays." He didn't know what to say to that, so he didn't say anything. She asked him his name. He told her. She asked about him, and he answered in the short, honest way of someone who has no reason to perform or impress. He was a single dad, worked at Henny's Diner on Maple. His wife had passed 3 years ago from a brain aneurysm, just him and his boy Caleb now, trying to keep things together. He said it all plainly, without self-pity, the way you state facts about the weather. Something shifted in Sophia's face as he talked. A kind of recognition, maybe, or grief, or both. "I ran away," she said quietly when he was done. "From my father, from everything. I didn't take my medication because I wanted to prove I could disappear. That I could be no one for a while. She laughed, but it wasn't funny. Turns out that's harder than it looks. You scared me half to death, Marcus said. And then he surprised himself by laughing too. They talked for another hour. He didn't know why. He didn't have a reason that made logical sense. But there was something about her. Under all the gold and the running away and the expensive coat soaking in a bag in the corner, that reminded him of something breakable that still wanted to be whole. He recognized it because he felt it every day. Before he left, she grabbed his hand. Marcus, please, can I have your number? I want to make sure I can reach you to thank you properly. He gave it to her because it seemed unkind not to. Then he went home, kissed a sleeping Caleb on the forehead, heated up leftover soup, and went to bed. He forgot about it almost immediately. Life had a way of doing that, pulling you back into its current before you could stop and think. 3 days later, his phone rang. It was Sophia. She was out of the hospital. She wanted to meet, she said. There was something she wanted to do. He said he was working. She said she'd come to the diner. He didn't argue. She came in on a Thursday afternoon with no makeup and a plain jacket and sat at his section and ordered coffee and pie like she was anybody. They talked for an hour between his tables. She asked about Caleb. She asked about Marcus's wife, Diane. She listened the way very few people ever listened, with her whole face leaning in, not waiting for her turn to talk. When he finally sat down across from her in the break before the dinner rush, she folded her hands on the table and looked at him steadily. My father is Gerald Renault, she said. Marcus knew the name in the vague way everyone did. Something about real estate, something about Forbes. Something you'd hear in passing and forget. Okay, he said. He wants to meet you, she said. And Marcus, he's not coming to shake your hand and hand you a gift card. She paused. He wants to offer you a job, a real one, managing a community initiative he's been trying to get off the ground for 2 years, a resource center on the east side, affordable housing support, job training, childcare. He's been trying to find the right person to run it. She looked at him carefully. Someone who actually knows what it means to need those things. Marcus was quiet for a long time. I don't have a degree, he said finally. He doesn't care about that. I've never managed anything bigger than a Tuesday night shift. He knows what he's looking for, she said, and it isn't a resume. He looked out the window at the gray Cincinnati afternoon, at the street where he had walked 1,000 times, at the neighborhood that had been slowly hollowing out for 20 years. And he thought about Caleb, about Diane, about $43, and a cold rain and a girl slumped against a fence who almost didn't make it. Why? He asked. Sophia smiled, and it was the most unguarded thing he had seen in a long time. Because you stopped, she said. In a world full of people who walk past, you stopped. My father has been trying to find someone who still does that. Someone who isn't doing good because it's strategic or photogenic or good for their brand. She shook her head gently. You didn't even know who I was. I still barely know who you are, Marcus said. She laughed, a real one this time, full and warm. I know, that's the whole point. Marcus took the meeting. He sat across from Gerald Renault in an office that was bigger than his apartment, and somehow didn't feel intimidating because Gerald Renault turned out to be a 70-year-old man with tired eyes and a photograph of Sophia on his desk, and a way of listening that reminded Marcus, strangely, of his own father. They talked for 3 hours, about the East Side, about what people actually needed, about Diane, about Caleb, about what it meant to show up for people when there was nothing in it for you. Marcus took the job. The Renault Community Resource Center opened 8 months later on the corner of Maple and 5th, 3 blocks from Henny's Diner, 4 blocks from where Marcus had found Sophia in the rain. He stood at the ribbon cutting with Caleb on his shoulders and Mrs. Patterson beside him in her good coat, and he thought about that Tuesday night, about the $43, about the choice that hadn't even felt like a choice, because some things you just do. Some things you just do because you were raised right, or because you're tired and broken and still have enough left to care, or because there's a girl against a fence and her pulse is weak and you are the one who happened to walk by. Marcus Webb had nothing to give that night. No money, no connections, no plan. He had exactly what turned out to be enough, the willingness to stop, and it changed everything. If this story moved you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it right now with someone who needs a reminder that kindness still exists in this world. Hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe to the Kindness channel. We tell stories that matter, about real human goodness, because the world needs more of it. Every single share helps this message reach someone new. Thank you for being here. And thank you for being the kind of person who believes that stopping to help a stranger is never a small thing. It never is.